don't want to freak anybody out, but I'm about to take a sip of water from this terrifying water bottle here, so I wanted to give you guys a verbal heads up before I went for it.
Content warning.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah,
hang on.
This is some rated X hydration.
Oof.
Yeah, I am going to be reaching out to SAC PD, and I want them to know that you.
I actually got this new cool, just in case the cops are looking at this one, I have a solidarity, not charity sticker on my bottle now. From
so
DSA.
You are an anarchist.
Yeah, sure. I did, though. I compromised. So my gritty eat the rich sticker, I put the new sticker over the rich part on the gritty sticker. So I in the spirit of compromise, gritty could be advocating for eating anybody now on my water bottle.
I like that. Yeah. Hydration and not cannibalism. Yeah. Right. You know, I think we're moving forward. We're moving the conversation forward in this city, and I'm glad.
We are.
It's about growth. It's about growth and maturity.
Yes.
And the cannibalism cause, and the cause of cannibalism, obviously, like, you know.
Well, we have to cover all of these things and more this episode, so let's just get started right away.
All right.
Okay.
Voices, the things they said, voices, some from those dead, all the voices heard. Voices, things we say, voices, they're in your head, all the voices heard.
Hello, everyone. You have Kempa.
And you have Skyler.
Whoa. And Shannon.
And Flo.
And Katie.
Oh my God. How great is this?
The gang's all here.
Yeah, I think you call that a domestic terror royal flush. Very excited for this episode today. But yeah, Skyler, of course, welcome back. You've had quite a 6 weeks.
I don't know what you're referring to.
Everything's been fine.
Seriously, though, honestly, it is so good to be back doing the show with y'all again. And not, like, I thought Elliot did great. PJ did great. It's awesome. Both of those, like, everyone who has been on the show since I've been gone is like a personal friend of mine, and I love to see them on the show. But it was with a certain amount of, it was bittersweet for me to listen to it in these circumstances. And I have been yearning to come back and do this show. So it is super fun to be on with y'all again. And yeah, that's it. I think I'm just going to say right now, I think I'm going to get real fucking sappy on this show. So just buckle up, everyone. Get ready for it. I also will watch my swears, Mickey. I promise. I'm a little out of I'm out of practice, but I can do it.
It's nice to have real Skyler back, because Elliot being Bizarro Skyler was trippy and also oddly comforting, maybe. Like, maybe I won't have to miss Skyler so much since someone does such a good, Skyler
it's like breaking
impression.
up with a boyfriend and then you have a body pillow, right? It was comforting, but it wasn't the same.
Exactly like that.
He'll love that. He'll love that comparison, I think.
Yeah.
Totally. No, for the first 2 minutes of the episode, I thought it was Skyler. And I was like, is Skyler doing voices again? What's happening right now? And I'm like, oh wow.
Oh, I love it. And of course, Councilmember Valenzuela, always great to have you. Welcome back as well.
Thanks for having me.
So let's get right into it. A lot apparently happens in a month. We take 1 month off and everything just goes to madness, utter chaos in the city of Sacramento. Why don't we start from the beginning? Just when we started going on our break, you announced that you had hired Skyler for a sort of a community engagement / communications position. Can you two let's just start walking us through what happened, how the city started pushing back, and then eventually their attempt to actually do a restraining order against Skyler.
I would like to start it off by saying,
oh, go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. No, I was just going to say, I think we start by saying that before I even applied for this position, I asked Michelle, like, hey, like, you know, I've been fairly critical of some people on city council. Like,
this is Chief of Staff Michelle Parasette.
Yeah, Chief of Staff Michelle Parasette. Should I apply for this, or did I kind of, you know, are they going to be too mad about it? And she was like, well, they were suing me when I took the job, so I wouldn't worry about it. I think you'll be fine. They probably forgot all about all of that already. So I was like, all right, cool, I'll apply.
It was like a magnitude of 10 this time.
Right. It was real though. People forget. Like, I reminded somebody right around the time this was happening that the city was suing Michelle when I hired her, and they were like, "Oh, like she's doing so great." I was like, "Isn't that amazing?" Yeah, I was actually surprised when Skyler applied. I mean, he'll tell you that during the interview, I was like, "Are you sure?" Because like, this is hard, and it's hard to go inside the beast and do this, but he was the most skilled out of 80 applicants, and we did get over 80 people applied for this position. It was a really long process, and Skyler came out on top, just way heads and tails above everybody else, and has the passion, had the values, and we were like sold. We were super thrilled. So then we put up this exciting announcement after he clears his background check and gets the offer letter, and we're like, great, we're moving and grooving. We're going to have a third full-time person. This is amazing. So what broke that weekend, we posted it on a Friday. What broke over the weekend was the California Globe article, as you talked about on the show. What followed that was a Fox News story, which the tidbit was that I didn't realize it was Fox News. I actually thought it was Fox 40 because I was like in between things. And they're like, oh, do you have time for a quick call with Fox News? And I was like, sure. And I talked to him for a few minutes. And then the next day when I saw the article, I was like, oh.
So Fox News CC'd me on that email. I don't know if you saw that. And
I didn't.
And I got off the plane, or I was getting on my plane. I was just leaving Montenegro. And just as I have to get on the plane, I see that email, and it's from Fox News, the national one. I was like, well, nothing I can do right now. And I had seen that you responded. And I just got on the flight, and I was like, let's see what happens when I'm off this plane.
I mean, shit, this is why I need a communications person. I need someone to be like, no, it's that Fox News. Like let us prepare. Then just was honest, just like I had been with constituents over the weekend. This is what's going on. SAG-D picked it up, and it was really on Monday. So posted on Friday. Monday is when I heard that a threat assessment was being done, which I was told was standard practice when employees were nervous. And I said, fine, okay. You know, at that point, I disclosed that Skyler had a firearm, a registered firearm. I'm like, that's the only thing I know of that you'll uncover. And they were like, cool, thanks. And then, you know, we had the meeting with the mayor on Wednesday, which I don't know how much of that you want to rehash because you talked about a lot of it, but pretty much all of it was in the declarations. And then Friday came, and that's when I was told to call the city attorney. She was wrapping up the threat assessment. She could tell me where things were, and that's when she said she was going to file litigation. And I was like, I'm sorry, what? She's like, yeah, no, we found out that he's got a firearm, and, you know, people are scared, and so we have a duty as an employer. And it was just, it was really shocking, I think is the word to use. I didn't believe it at first. I mean, I called a few people who I knew legal stuff, knew different issues, and was like, is this real? Should I be nervous about this? And they were like, wait, what? There had to have been something else. Like, it couldn't just be the statement that he made on a podcast. Like, there had to have been something else. And, you know, we're trying to help me think it through. Right? No, there wasn't anything else, you know, and I was getting calls from colleagues. I mean, from the moment I announced Skyler's hired through that closed session, which I can't talk about, I was getting calls from colleagues that were basically like, you know, really cut your losses on this one. I mean, all levels of political folks in this region called me over those few days, like, cut your losses. This is going to burn you. You don't need this. And I'm like, but I think it's good when people who critique us want to come into City Hall. Like, this can't be the way where you treat people who critique us. Like, I think this is important. I think Skyler brings Yeah, and he brings a perspective I think matters, and I think he's got a skill set that matters, and like I think he's going to be a really good asset to our team, and I'm not going to hire someone less qualified just because you're not comfortable with the person who was the most qualified. That doesn't serve me or my constituents well, you know. So yeah, I mean, and then the outcome of all of that. I mean, I don't know
it
how
was
much
an
more
8-1
detail you
vote.
want
That
me
was
to get. 8-1 vote.
Actually, let me bring that back a little bit. You made your announcement, I believe it was June 7th, right?
Yeah.
Publicly.
Yes.
And you started getting, I did a bunch of public records requests. So all of this that I'm saying, these are things that I found through emails that I've requested from the city clerks and text messages. There were emails sent to every single city council member and the mayor from community members. The city manager was in a lot of these, and in some of them, the city manager did a reply all saying that he was disappointed in your hire, which that just immediately strikes me as a little inappropriate. And obviously, we have all been critics of the city manager on this show before. And you sort of responded to him in your email saying that, I don't know if that's appropriate to respond in this way, like we can talk this out. As this all started happening, Skyler reached out to both the mayor and the city manager. Again, this is all public records, but feel free to nod along. And said, hey, I know that like I've been a critic of yours pretty publicly, like let's sit and talk this out. I'm sure that, we can find some common ground. The mayor agreed. From what I read in court filings, the city manager agreed too, tentatively.
Tentatively, yeah.
Okay. And
no, he did. So we were to give it was actually the 4th. I had to look at my calendar here. It's been kind of a blur. It's hard to believe it was not that long ago. It was Friday the 4th that we announced it. So when I got the email, I mean, there was a few texts back and forth. Howard and I were trying to reach each other on Monday because he wanted to talk about it, let me know about the threat assessment. We had dinner that night because we couldn't meet. We kept missing each other, and he was leaving City Hall and I was going to get dinner, and we're like, let's just meet in person. And that's when I mentioned that, we were going to meet with the mayor, Skyler and I, and asked if he wanted to come, and he said yes. So there's text where I'm trying to send him the meeting invite and get it to go through for that Wednesday.
Yeah, I saw those.
So he was enthusiastically planning on participating. He seemed like he was at the time really interested in hearing from Skyler himself and giving him that time.
And so that's good to know, because then a few days later, when this news broke from this far right blog, the California Globe, then Fox News picked it up nationally, then the Bee picked it up locally, then the conversation started changing in emails and texts that I got from public records requests. Then the city manager started changing his tune. He sent a message that his wife sent to all of city council, basically her pleading, against Skyler's hire. There is a text message that was a public records request that I got between Councilmember you and the city manager, where you were saying like, hey, what's going on? Like, I thought we were discussing this. This feels like you're sort of moving this in a different direction. And he said to you, I still think we can work this out, blah, blah, blah. But my wife and I had a big argument last night, and, I want to do what's best for my family as well. Soon after this, things start silently going into motion. I know from emails that were sent later that day that the city manager started silently forwarding all of his email interactions with you, Councilmember, to Police Chief Daniel Hahn and to District 1 Councilmember Angelique Ashby. From there, we know that the city manager totally skipped out on that meeting with all of you, with no explanation. The mayor refused to give an explanation. And then we learn that the city manager had been working with the police chief, the city attorney, and when I read those forwarded emails to Angelique Ashby, I kind of, especially some of the text messages too, it leads me to believe that she was a part of this sort of colluded effort to make this action against Skyler. So that all happens, and then we are at the place now where you kind of left us off, where the city attorney comes to you and says, you know, we are going to file for restraining order. It's very interesting to me that she said that part of the reason was that he is a registered firearm owner. Like that's something that's like illegal or wrong. On top of that, you know, we all know what Skyler said on that episode. This was our House Calls episode, which got all four of us landed in the LA Times. What you said was 100% not a direct threat. I know the First Amendment front to back. Like anyone who does knows that it's just open and shut. Like nothing you said was illegal there. Right. Yet the following Tuesday there was a closed session. The news dropped that it was an 8-1 vote. Katie, I don't know if you can say where you voted on it. I will assume that you voted in support of your new staffer.
Yeah, I was the one.
If I find out that it didn't go that way, I'm going to have a lot of questions.
Sean Laloe was actually your one fan, Skyler. So, I mean, can we just talk for a second then about Councilmember Vang? Because I think a lot of people have questions there. Councilmember Vang, to a lot of us, was a part of the movement in our heads. She was a part of the squad that was like not taking police money. She has been on our show at least twice, and we've considered her a friend. And
she personally reached out to congratulate me before any of this craziness happened, right after Katie announced.
Yeah, I actually, Public Records requested those text messages and saw them. And it seems like a very nice interaction between you and Councilmember Vang. So my question is, this is for anyone, what happened? Like what's going on here? And in her absence, like we sort of just have to ask a question and we don't really know.
Ashby got her. I mean,
I'll just say, I mean, I'll let her speak for herself. I do think she thought she was doing the right thing as an employer. But yeah, I was incredibly disappointed. That was probably the hardest part of all of this. I mean, a lot of this was hard, but you know, there's been a lot of 7-2 votes that I can deal with, even like 7-1 if she abstained from things. 8-1 on this was hard, and that's still something that's, I think, ongoing for us.
Yeah.
Like,
and I just want to add in here, you know, I think the challenge here, of course, is that, I mean, this came up before, even with the House Calls and what happened before, you know, this is the challenge of, you know, of people being representative also of their communities, is that there were a lot of people in, you know, the Asian and Pacific Islander community who were like, this is, you know, a threat, given especially all of the violence that was happening against AAPI communities. And so you know, so there is being torn as, you know, the lone representative on the council, and having, you know, somebody from your community saying, I don't feel safe, then puts you in this really awkward position. And so I'm not, you know, I'm not even, I don't think the devil needs advocacy, nor do I, you know, but I just want to, you know, enter that perspective in that, like, that is hard. I think you're put in that position a lot, especially as, you know, I know as a Black woman, I've been put in that position before where, like, you know, as recently as, you know, Bill Cosby's conviction being overturned, of like, do you stand with Black people, or do you stand with Black women, or do you stand with all women? Like, where do you stand on these issues? And so I just wanted to enter that in as some context around what may have been going on there, you know, without having, you know, without speaking for, you know, or having had a conversation with her myself about this.
Yeah. you know, I assume that City Attorney Susanna Wood, during all of this, up until, I suppose, Monday, July 12th, which is when the court date was supposed to be today, as we record, everyone on City Council was probably told not to speak on this, on the vote, on the case, on anything. So to me, it's understandable that we haven't heard from her yet, but I think folks do kind of want answers, and I guess I'd like to also take a step back and say that, you know, I think I've talked with some folks offline on this, who are on the screen in front of me in the past, where the left, the capital L left, tends to take a very hard line on things, and I think in a lot of ways that's good. On top of that, if someone isn't good enough for you, who is an elected or something like that, and they make a move that you don't approve of and you shut them out, there is a whole sea of neolibs waiting for them with open arms to come to their side. And I think we need to remember that as we navigate something like this.
Oh, I like literally had that happen. After the Howard Chan salary vote, it was amazing to me how quickly some folks that actually said that to me, like, oh, it's okay that the progressive dramatic, like, we like you more now. And I was like, oh, wow, like, this is real. Like, it was super overt. I always figured it was a little bit more covert than that, but it was literally like, oh, it's cool that your supporters aren't happy because we'll take you in. And I was like, oh no, like I'll deal with the anger over here before I go this way. But yeah, you can see how people shift. I always wondered how these organizers and like really cool folks got into elected office and just became crappy, right? And it's like, it's hard to maintain that because you do get in situations that like, there's just no way out. It feels like there's no decision you can make that your base is going to understand. And it's easy to just be like, okay, I'll just go over here. These folks don't judge me and they like me just fine now. Than it is to kind of face the anger and stay with your base. But
yeah,
I don't know. When I decided to run, I made two promises to myself. One was that I wasn't going to go into debt because that was like a thing. People were telling me to like take out a loan to finance my campaign, and I was like, oh hell no! like I was not in good financial shape. Like that was not happening. But the other promise I had to make to myself was that I didn't want this to change me and like who I was. And so that's sort of been my, like, even if it means I'm not elected forever or something happens that changes the outcome of my next election, I'd rather be who I am, you know?
Yeah.
I think like that is why that's why why Mai's vote is such a disappointment, because I think a lot of us felt like I think I certainly did, and I think a lot of us felt like there were two people who had that perspective on the council for a certain amount of time. And it's not like with all of this, with any of this, right? Like I'm not like let me just state for the record, I take 0% of this personally. Like this is none of this ultimately is about me one way or another. And I know that Mai knows who I am, and it's not like she's not making a statement about my character with this vote at all, and I do not take it that way at all. It is purely a political. I take it as purely a political decision. I mean, largely probably for the reasons that Flo just laid out. You know, I think that makes a lot of sense, and I get it. But it is like, I don't know, like what Katie just laid out with, you know, I'm not going to let things change me. I will not compromise on my values because it's easier or because the people around me want me to do it. That to me, I don't know, that reinforces it for me that like I'm in the right place. I'm working for the right person. That's why this is so special. Right. And it is like, it's a bummer to kind of have it reinforced that like, we're the only office with that council member. But it is, I mean, while that is like difficult and it is like indicative of the fact that we have like this incredible uphill battle in front of us, like all of us do, you know, in the city now. It is definitely like it's affirming for me to know that like I'm in the right office, you know.
Yeah.
Well, that doesn't change anything though, too. And that's what I think I said that to you at one point, Dave, where I'm like, I always knew I was the outlier. Deep, I mean, Maya and I agree on most things, but not 100% of the time. Like there's some stuff we disagree on. And I always knew I was that left outlier, and that part of my role was to just show the community that they weren't crazy, that like when they saw something on the council that didn't feel right, there'd be at least one person, hopefully two, hopefully more, that were saying, yeah, this isn't right, whether it's the budget or whatever it is. That I knew that it was going to be an uphill for these first couple of years, just getting people used to a different perspective. But yeah, I mean, this doesn't change much. It's humbling and kind of I think I'll say disappointing, seeing some of the texts, seeing some of the emails, realizing like just how often you always knew that they treated me differently. I think people like to think that they're more even-handed and discreet than they actually are. Like it's super obvious, the people at City Hall who really don't like me. Like that's like not been subtle to me at all. They can be nice to me to my face, but I know how they feel. And these texts just kind of confirmed it. There were a few surprises that were hard to read. From folks that I thought I was at least being honest with, or who had developed some respect that were just not, and that's hard. But like I said, I don't want it to change me. I was raised to treat people with respect. I mean, if someone has a good idea, I'm still gonna support them. If someone comes to me with something important, I'm still gonna try to help, even if they said something crappy about me on these texts. But the funny thing is too, is like it's such a culture. Because like when I'm looking at these texts and emails.
By the way,
like,
for listeners, I just want to say for listeners, these texts and emails we're referring to I did a public records request for every single interaction, text or email from every city council member, from the mayor, and every one of their staffers regarding the hiring of Skyler. And this is all information that I have, a couple hundred pages of now. Keep going.
And, looking at it, what's interesting to me is how much ubiquitous it is in culture. Because a lot of these folks that I see that are saying really negative things about me, I have heard say negative things about my colleagues, or have told me dirt on somebody else. And I'm like, is this really how we're going to be? Where like everybody's just trying to like manipulate each other and say crap to build trust with each other. And then like this race to the bottom culturally of like, like I'm going to be in your corner because screw that person. Or, I mean, it's amazing some of the stuff that people have told me about my colleagues that are on these text threads that then turn around and say crap about me. So it just reinforces that like golden notion. I forget what it would be called, that saying of like, someone's talking crap to you about somebody else, they're probably talking crap about you to other people. Like totally true with a lot of these text threads that I'm reading. And I'm like, wow, I wonder if people realize that, or if they think they're immune to it. I'm kind of curious. Like, I wish we had more public records act requests. I think we'd uncover some interesting things.
I'm putting them out weekly. Don't worry. I grab a beer every Wednesday at a bar, and I'm like, okay, what 3 things am I requesting today? So yeah, plenty more to come. I want to talk a little bit about where a strength for a politician like you should come from and does come from, because I think you do have folks like or I don't know, like Bassam up in his school district where, like he, for example, Bassam El-Kara he wants the cops out of that school district. But he's not making a point of it or a stink of it every single meeting, the way that I kind of think he should, the way that, what Flo does running the Measure U committee, or what you do in your position on the dais at City Council. You have a bully pulpit and you use it to change the conversation. And I really think that for it's still a little hard, perhaps a little scary to make that jump on some of the issues. But I think folks should realize that if you do these things that you and Flo are doing, you have the entire community behind you. You have the movement behind you. So whereas if everyone in City Hall might be disagreeing with you, they have no idea how many people you have behind you when it matters, when you're willing to take a stand. And so let's bring it to the point where they file this restraining order. And then obviously the temporary restraining order is shut down, it's thrown out because it has obvious First Amendment implications. So we kind of know where that case is going to go. But the day after that, I believe you held a press conference to file an anti-slap against the city attorney and the city for what they did. Can somebody explain what that is? And then let's talk about who showed up for you. Right? Let's talk about who came out and said, no, this isn't okay.
Yeah, well, I have to first thank, one of our attorneys, Brian Crone, he let me book an appointment with him on a Sunday morning, and it was kind of ironic because his website was all about work-life balance and spend time with my family, and he heard a quick snippet from another attorney I had called because I was just trying to seek counsel, right? I'm just is this real? What is did I miss something? What do I need to be looking for? And he let me book something with him on Sunday, which I was ow, and took it right away. It was no, this isn't right. I'm going to coach you through this. And then Mark Maron obviously texted me during a meeting when he heard and was what is happening? Do you? And I was yes, come this way. But an anti-slap essentially is a proactive litigation when you're being attacked or harassed because of protected speech. I'm way simplifying it, but it's a way essentially to try to get the initial action dismissed and to get your attorney's fees recovered because you're kind of forced to fight something that you shouldn't have had to fight in the first place.
And so often it's a powerful entity like a city or a large business that's just trying to silence you.
Well, it's anybody, right? The whole point of the thing is it's to protect somebody like myself who doesn't have the same amount of resources as the city, because the city can just kind of file whatever they want. They have a team full of people to work on it. Well, if I don't have that, then they can kind of push me around legally. And the anti-slap suit is to give me a little, give me a defense against just being continually harassed by a legal team that I don't have the resources to.
Which, spoiler alert, it worked.
Yeah, I did.
But I think who showed up though? We were talking to, Tiffany Resl-Moyer was trying to go on vacation and she was taking our calls trying to help.
Tiffany Resl-Moyer is a great civil rights attorney who has worked on so many things, from the George Floyd protests, just all the way to really, Skyler's fight. Sorry, I'm trying to just give context for listeners.
It's good. She's with the Lawyers Committee on Civil Rights, in San Francisco. And, we, NorCal Resist, which really speaks to, Skyler's relationships and the foundation that he had built as a community. Folks were really willing, NorCal Resist attorneys were on the phone with us. DSA, the Democratic Socialists of America, Sacramento, obviously, because once we saw the filing, I was floored. It was funny because actually I didn't know the filing was available. The public, I hadn't been watching my city email, and Teresa Cliff called me from the B, and she's like, oh, they just posted it. I'm like, oh, okay. So I'm looking at it, and I was just speechless. I did not expect them to post the photo of the DSA shirt that Skyler wore on a podcast, or the retweet. I was so stunned by just the breadth of what they did that I was literally speechless.
Right. This is in reference to the 91-page filing that the city did for their restraining order against Skyler. It is, in my opinion, a hilarious and fun read.
Yeah, I thought it rocked, honestly. Especially now that we're kind of out of the other side of the litigation part of this. Having very, very serious people go through all of my dumb tweets for the last year and read them seriously is like a dream that I didn't know that I had until it's happening. It was incredible. I loved it. I hope that everybody gets to experience people reading your stupid tweets back to you and being like, can you explain this in a serious context?
No, can we like put this in context though? Because it was literally like 10 p.m. at Mark Maron's office, right? Like we go over there because he's like,
Local
okay,
civil
let's
rights
go through
attorney.
this filing piece by piece, right? And figure out what they've got and what they don't got. And so you've got this like respectable older gentleman, right? I won't estimate age, who's sitting there reading Skyler's story and like monotone and being like, what did you mean by that? And then we'd all start laughing like, this is not like real, is it? But then there was this sort of like scary side of it though, which is why we called so many folks for that press conference, because I'm like, but really though, if this succeeded, I mean, they like how many people retweeted those tweets, right? Like how many people have gone to protests? How many people have like racial solidarity committee t-shirts in Sacramento that are now like automatically suspect because of this political belief that like I share? And so I'm like, wait a minute, this is incredible. So I was speechless. But no, we did the press conference to announce the anti-SLAPP. I mean, we already knew out the gate that that's what we were going to do before the temporary restraining order was denied, because we knew what it was the minute we saw this. It was an attack on political beliefs, because that was all the evidence that was presented, was political beliefs. Why else would you include that if you weren't trying to say these political beliefs make this person more prone to be violent?
Yes.
I want to jump in here with a question, because this has been something I've really been wrestling with. I have been trying to figure out why, right? Like Angelique and Daryl are attorneys. I believe they both have passed the California State Bar. And so I would just assume between them and the city attorney, like they knew they had nothing.
This is a home run. It's open and shut. Yes.
Yeah. So my question then becomes, I always think, okay, if people are doing something that their literal professional training would tell them is not going to win in the first place, what's the big game? And I'm wondering, okay, so, you win, they can't continue to attack Skyler. Is the long game, and I'm not asking you to speculate, but I'm more so curious about your consideration of this. Like, I wonder if their intent was every single council member now will think twice about who they appoint, because most of them don't have the staying power that you do in terms of your willingness to stick to what you've done. And so it's going to make everybody else more aware that they should avoid people who maybe aren't even as outspoken as Skyler, but have anything. And so like, what does that do to the overall tenor of the conversation? And that's what I've really been worrying about here, is like, when you run people through the ringer and make something look really hard, then you just make it so that everybody else goes, I don't want those kind of problems, so I'm just going to avoid this. And what does that do to the tenor of our conversation? What does that do to the type of people who end up having city employment? I mean, Angelique postures as if she cares a lot about diversifying the people who, are working for City Hall. And I appreciate that her idea of diversity is everybody who identifies as a woman, and that's full stop. And that's where her analysis ends. But I think that analysis also includes diversity of thought, because it's much easier to find a Black capitalist than it is to find people who are socialist in nature, who, are seeking to find ways to support our communities and to, to engage in the type of political upheaval that actually helps a lot of people. And so that's what I'm concerned about strategically. And I'm just curious to know if you two feel the same way, Katie, especially you being, on the council. Like, what impact do you think this is going to have moving forward on people hiring and just on, staff and the culture at City Hall?
It's funny that you say that, because as you were talking, I was thinking that I hope it kind of has the opposite effect, because we were victorious. I think the culture dynamic of Sacramento, like this includes Capitol culture and City Hall culture, is that if a staffer bubbles up and somebody says, I don't like what that person did, whether if it was on paid time or personal time, you're supposed to fire them. That's always been the culture in the city, you know, and like you always hear about retaliation and someone calling someone boss and trying to get them to fire so-and-so. And so I'm the one who broke the rule by not firing somebody that everybody said, we don't think we like this person being at City Hall. And I said, well, I mean, too bad, because I'm surrounded by people who don't like me. And I think this person is going to be a really strong ally and a good asset to my team. And I'm not going to say no to that just because you don't feel comfortable, because I don't feel comfortable sometimes around people in City Hall. Like, let's talk about that. But I hope that
this is, I actually public
does...
record requested a text message interaction that you had with Councilmember Ashby, I think, on this, where you're like, there's a double standard here. I'm allowed to build community, and that should be okay. Sorry, keep going.
I'm allowed to bring in people who share my political ideas about change and what we're trying to achieve. And to ask me to work around a bunch of people that I'm not comfortable with, but to not bring in people that I think are going to help me achieve what I'm trying to achieve is just, it's a double standard. There is no other way for me to say it. But I hope it does the opposite, because I hope people see now that, you know, they are going to come after you for this stuff, but you can get over it. The community will be there for you, that there's legal people who will be there for you, that the courts are going to see this for what it is and hopefully stand with you. I honestly think that, and I can't prove this, obviously, nobody said it to me, but I don't think they thought that I would let them go through with it. I think they thought that eventually I would fold, because I was getting threatened with everything from, you're probably going to get recalled, you're probably not going to get reelected, this is going to end your political career. Like, Katie, have you really thought about this? Like, this is going to hurt you. And I was forced to say, look, I can't go back on this because of something he said months before I hired him, because that violates what I believe in terms of the right to disagree and the right to have opinions that maybe I don't agree with everything Skyler's ever said in his life, but like, that's part of what makes the work better, is that
I'm shocked to hear this.
I mean, start with his take on Justice League and just go from there, right? Like, I mean, Skyler has a ton of bad takes.
I thought you were going to bring up
you want to take him down for that. Like, Daryl, call me if you want to take him down for that, because he has some criminal takes about the world. Like, yeah, absolutely.
Oh gosh.
But yeah, but I hope it does the opposite. I hope it shows, I mean, a lot of what I feel like my role is, which isn't why I got into this. I mean, I'm creating change. I came here to create change. We are still working on that as hard as we ever have. But it's also to show people that you can be different. Like, you don't have to fit the mold at City Hall, and you can be there. You can get a seat at the table. You can make it. You know, if someone comes after you for something you believe, the community will be with you. And regardless of the outcome, it may still hurt me. I don't know. Maybe there is a recall brewing. Maybe I am going to lose my reelection. But I always said I wasn't going to govern looking at my political future, because again, I don't want this to change me. I was doing it for what I thought was right, regardless if folks agreed. And yeah,
you know,
I hope people see that, I guess, is what I'm saying. I hope that's the message they take out of this.
Well, when I look at the press conference with you and Skyler outside of Mark Maron's law office, which first of all is right across the street from former city council member Steve Hansen's house, which was very fun for me.
Yeah, which rocks extra hard for sure.
I loved it. The number of people who came out and just like real ones who've been on our show, real people who are trying to make a real difference, that they get so ignored. They're just over and over again ignored at City Hall, by the Board of Soups, by our state legislature, you know, all of these things within 4 blocks of each other. We had the Sunrise Movement there. We had the Anti-Police Terror Project. We had some of the best labor folks that I know there defending you two. We had, as you said, DSA, NorCal Resist. The list goes on, and this is what it's about, I think. And you know, I don't think you're not as like militant as like a Kashama Savant, like, you know, city council member, but I do think that this should show us that if you take a bold step like that, people will rally. people will say defend Katie at all costs. And I don't know, there's a part of me that hopes that Mai comes around to that too. And it's like, if Mai takes bold stances, people will rally. We will. And you just have to be able to take that leap.
Yeah. It is scary though. I'm not going to lie. It was definitely like, oh, cool. I just worked hard for the last 2 years to get this position and it might all be gone now. But I had to really think hard about, you know, who I was and what I believed and what I thought was right. I always had this mental image of my dad who passed in 2012. And I mean, he always had this way of helping me see super clearly, like what was the path that I was supposed to take. And like, for me, every step of this way, I knew exactly what I needed to do. I knew what I believed. I believed that Skyler and people like Skyler in the community who are on the streets, who are protesting, who are doing this work, if they want to come in and make change, that we should be welcoming them with open arms, that that's supposed to be how government is supposed to work. How democracy is supposed to work. Doesn't mean we have to like each other and go get beers after work together, but we have to be open to bringing people in, or else how do you get past? And I've had this conversation with 100 different progressives in the last couple of weeks who are like, yeah, but what he said. And I'm like, but how are we ever going to get past this polarization if I said, oh, you said this thing that I don't like, and now you're just done. Like, you can't come into government, you can't participate. I don't like the fact that you cussed me in public comment. I don't like the fact that you're doing home protests. So that's it. And it's like, we can't just write off people because we don't appreciate the way they're expressing their voice for change. Like, we have to create a way to work together. And I would never bring anybody into City Hall that I thought would hurt my colleagues. Like, that's something that I just feel like I had to keep saying over and over again. Like, do you really think I would bring in somebody that I had any reason to think would do something? I mean, you all know Skyler, and that's the thing. It's like, even Mai said at one point, well, I know Skyler wouldn't hurt anybody. And I'm like, I know that too. So like, what are we talking
about here? Yeah.
That's the thing. I think that's one of the things that's like been one of the biggest bummers for me, is that because of the way that this got reported on and the way that, like, the language that was used by the city attorney and all this stuff, like, I believe there's a certain amount of folks who were involved in this who know full well that I'm not a security risk to City Hall, who were doing this for nakedly political reasons and doing it all in bad faith. But I also think that there are like several people, like I have to imagine there's like several people who actually are like legitimately concerned. And like, to me, like, that's a bummer to me. And honestly, like, that's kind of the worst part about having all of this stuff sort of said about me and having my words contextualized in these ways, is that like, it doesn't make me feel good. Like, it doesn't make me feel good to know that like people are coming to work and who have legitimate, or like who feel like they have legitimate security concerns, you know. And that, like, I've been talking a lot in the press about, you know, like, oh, I've have fences to mend and I've got to work with people, and I'm gonna do that. I am gonna do that stuff. But like, one of the things that has been the hardest and the most upsetting is like knowing that there are people who are like legitimately scared because of the way that this got handled. I don't know. Like, I really hope, like, one of my main missions is, you know, and we're still kind of under COVID rules for now, so that there's not a lot of people working at City Hall right now anyway, but like, I'm like definitely on a mission to like help people to understand that it's like, you know, like, to help people to get to know me at least a little bit, like you guys know me, to be like, no, like, there's like, am I somebody who has said some like inflammatory stuff? Like, sure, yeah, absolutely. And I don't even expect people to like, I don't expect people that I work with to agree with the things that I say. But I do expect, and I do hope, and will work towards like making creating a situation in which people like understand that they're safe at work, you know? Yeah, I don't know. Like, it doesn't, I do have like, it has been difficult to like, I don't care, I guess is what I'm trying to say, to be like sort of painted as this violent psychopath for my own, like, I don't really, you know, whatever. I don't really care about that personally. But it does bother me that discourse has painted an actual picture for some people who don't know who I am, who do work at City Hall, and
I think
that's a bummer for me.
Yeah, I think a lot of them did this on purpose, and they know full well that you're not violent. That's what made me the maddest, right? That this person who is a longtime close friend of me, of Flo, who is a nationally respected, epidemiologist and advocate for, marginalized communities, of Shannon, who runs a daytime shelter for women and children experiencing homelessness, and of Katie, right, who is really the strongest voice in our elected apparatus within our region for our most marginalized communities. You're friends with all of us, and they think, I don't know, they think they can paint you as dangerous and that we won't just come flying at them.
Right.
And which is like, that's been a big impetus for me the last few weeks. It's like, how dare they? How dare they try that shit with you? And also, and we all know this, if they didn't try it with you, they'd try it with Flo.
Right.
Or with any of us.
Say that. Say that.
Yeah.
So we rally hard for each other when they try this shit. Angelique, this follows you forever. Daryl, this follows you forever. Howard Chan, I'm following your emails and your texts forever now. And Chief Han, like this isn't something that they can just cavalierly do to people who disagree with them. And that's the message I want to send them. And I'm so sorry that you went through this. Katie, this isn't your first rodeo. I'm sorry you went through it too, but like, I know you. Like, I don't know.
Well, I mean, I've got an amazing support network, I'll say, but I think the thing that I don't want to get lost from this story either is that they are already doing this to others. And like part of the reason that there was
That's a good
showing, that there was such a strong showing at that press conference, we didn't publicly advertise that press conference, right? I think I sent like 3 different text messages and 80 people showed up. I don't know, it felt like a lot of people were there because it's happening to the NorCal Resist organizers. It's happening already to folks on the street who are getting social media, like subpoenas for social media content. It's happening already to people who get arrested, pay bail, and then get charges dropped over and over and over again when they're trying to financially ruin people to keep them from going to the streets. Like this has already been happening when our chief calls people domestic terrorists for going out and protesting on the street. Those labor folks who came out said this is a popular topic of labor. The popular tactic has been home protests. They've used home protests in labor for decades, and they said they've been charged. They've had labor leaders charged as domestic terrorists in court because of their showing up at people's houses to protest for fair labor practices. So the reason that I think this has hit such a chord in the left is because Skyler's case, and we always said this, right, throughout the case, we're like, this really isn't about Skyler. I mean, it's not even really about me. It's about the right to disagree. It's about the right to protest. It's about the right to critique your government and to not then have that government come after you, as has been the case with one organizer I talked to recently with the cease and desist order, because they say you're defaming the character of city staff. Like this is the legal system cannot be used as a sword like this. This is not what it's supposed to be. And the city, this was just the latest example, a more public example. And we had the privilege of a platform and an ability to fight that was really important, because we wanted to fight for everybody, and we're not going to stop now that Skyler's case is done. You know, I brought up before all of this, the privacy. We have no privacy policy for data collected by SAC TV right now. Like, we have no protections. And so I want to start fighting for those ordinances and fighting for those rules so that we can protect everybody, because it's not just like the whole thing, if it's not him, it's you. It is already all of us. We're all getting monitored. They have no policy for what they're doing with our social media. They demonstrated that with Skyler's filing when they had all this data on him. It's like they could be doing that, and they probably already are doing that to all of us. So like, we have got to fight back, because this is not who we are. Let's just not.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, just to finish the storyline, you filed the anti-SLAPP, and you won easily, and I think we all knew that was going to happen. And this is, let Daryl try and call it what it is, caca, but this is.
I was asked what Master of Crows meant in a legal setting.
I love that so hard.
To think about that.
Well, they have to go back to the really early episodes of Voices to figure out what that was, and we're not going to tell you. We want those downloads. So
Yeah,
hop in there,
exactly.
feds.
Yeah, put those Patreon subscriptions to use.
But I guess just finally, thank you both. Thanks to Mark Marin and the labor attorney. What's his name? I'm sorry.
Brian Crone and ACLU, who did, I mean, this was record speed for ACLU to jump into a case, which I think also speaks to the gravity. Everybody was shocked. They're like, they jumped in like 2 weeks notice. Like, yeah, they were. Of
course they did.
All over it.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's how important this is. And I think that ACLU's involvement should really speak to that. I thought we were starting this show just to like drink White Claw and yell about shit, but apparently we're actually getting people very angry. So I'm just so thankful that folks like you two are willing to take the beating that you take in something like this, and willing to allow us to help you fight back. And this doesn't end today. This keeps going. And Daryl, we're in City Hall now, baby. Like, we are all, everyone, and it's not even just Daryl or just Angelique. Jay Chenier, is typing little like snarky texts. Councilmember Jeff Harris is doing the same thing. Like, you don't get to act like you're the only ones who get to have these real conversations, right? Like, we are changing the discourse, and that's what's so infuriating and so scary to them. And I don't know, I'm just so thankful for all four of you on the show today, and for everyone who is out there fighting. And I think we're winning. I really think we're winning.
Well, I have to say thank you to all of you too, because I mean, I listen to Voices. I'm a patron, and every Friday, every Tuesday, and I think a big part of when I knew I was ready to run wasn't so much me personally, it was the community, and like, was the community ready to organize? Because you knew when you're going into the situation, you needed that inside-outside game. You needed the community to be ready, and they were. And a big part of that is the conversations that's changed, and it gives me. People always say that they're worried about burnout. Flo has been one of them a couple times. Like, take care of yourself, don't burn out, Katie. Go work out, do things for that. But I get a lot of energy by what the community is doing right now and the conversations that are happening. And I think that what's got to be disappointing at the end of all of this is when we are still doing stuff. We've been doing stuff. This has not dampened the fire. It's only built it to be stronger, because it's reinforced that we are going to be there thick and thin through it all in the pursuit of something better and righteous. And I remember Shannon's comment on that very episode that was quoted with Skyler. And I always said, did you listen to the whole episode? Because you finished at one point, I'm like loosely paraphrasing. You were saying, gosh, like, they don't even see value in these conversations. They just think this is so violent, that we're here critiquing, asking for real accountability, for mutual aid, for real engagement in the community, for real solutions. And that's what you all are fighting for here. And I may not always agree with anybody, but that's what makes us peaceful. None of us agree 100% of the time. And like, This is what makes us better as a government. And I think you all are a part of that. So, and I'm happy to be in the trenches with y'all.
Same.
Ditto.
I think you should take this opportunity to unveil the vision for Sacramento City Council that basically we get people into empty seats, or as seats come up, we get people in until Katie is the politically moderate candidate in City Hall. Yeah, this is really just the first step of a long plan that I think that we need to be working on here.
That's a given. Yeah. Skyler, did you have any last thoughts?
Ready. Well,
I mean, I've been doing this a lot. I told you I would get sappy, but it really is like at the end of it, like it has been, it's been a ride, right? This is completely new to me. I've never had anything like this happen. It would already have, just like taking this job and learning the ropes and everything would have already been like a big month for me, without all of the circus that went along with it. But I don't know. I guess if I have one thing to say, it's just to express like the absolutely monumental amount of gratitude that I have towards like everybody who's been involved with it, like all of y'all have been like super supportive. Dave, like the work that you're doing right now, I don't know. I was just tweeting about it the other day. Like, dude, you're on fire right now. Like this, like it rocks. And it has been really helpful.
Don't make me angry. I've been like, that's the lesson from all of this.
I like put myself in Twitter jail through the whole thing, because I didn't want I didn't want to tweet anything that was going to screw things up with the litigation. But I don't know, like all the people who were filling up that Twitter space for me. I don't know, people like so many people who I don't even really know were reaching out to be like, hey, are you okay? Is there anything I can do to help? Hey, here's a situation that I have been in or that I am currently in that is similar, and I just want you to know that you're not alone with this. Like there was so much of that, and it meant so much, yeah, I don't know. I'm not going to do the whole like the whole thing, I guess, but I don't know. Our legal team was fantastic and worked tirelessly on this stuff. I don't know. It really, I don't know. I guess like what Katie was saying about community, really, I've never fully experienced the community coming together like for me in that way. And honestly, I hope that I never have the occasion to have that happen ever again. But it was absolutely incredible. And to everyone who was a part of that, like, just know that I deeply appreciated all of it. And yeah, I don't know. Well, I'm excited to get going, honestly. Like it's been just like I'm still a new employee, right? Like I just started my 4th week of doing this, but already just like with what I've seen so far, there is so much to like be excited about, and so many things. I don't know, like it's like the whole thing, obviously, like being a leftist and standing up for this kind of stuff and housing justice and police accountability, like it's always daunting, right? Because the opposing side of it is so powerful and so omnipresent, right? That it's always daunting. But honestly, like there's so much room, and there's so much will to change things around for the better. And the idea, I don't know, the opportunity to get to be like an actual part, like a real part of that change is a huge honor to me. So I don't know, I guess, yeah, I mean, I gotta also thank Katie for believing in me and standing by me for this on it. Like anybody else would have bailed out immediately, and I would have been like, yeah, fair, like of course, but the fact that you didn't, I don't know, a lot of things for me, including that, would just bolstered the feeling that I was like, no, this is exactly where I need to be, exactly what I need to be doing, and exactly who I need to be doing it with. Yep. Yeah, I don't know. I guess that's it. I'm ready to go. I'm fired up. Like there are a lot. There's a ton of work to do, and I'm ready. And I'm stoked to get to do it, and stoked to get to do it with the D4 team.
Yes.
Love it. Well, I mean, shall we leave it at that?
We shall.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, Skyler, we didn't really give you a good in to do the.
I mean, I was just gonna say, like, speaking of being really stoked about an awesome team.
Yes.
Now, what you can't do is just throw a bunch of money at Councilmember Valenzuela. That's not. We don't do that. That's not how it works. That's not how the game is played. But what you can do is throw a bunch of money at Voices River City to show your support. And also, Dave, you do this a lot better than I do. If somebody wanted to just dump a bushel of cash onto
bushel
onto Voices River City in general, what, like, for one, where can they go to do that? And for two, why should they consider doing it?
Yeah, I mean, if you want to do a one-time dump, and who doesn't love a good dump? You can go to voicesrivercity.com. There's a link to our PayPal page. All right, guys, heads out of the gutter. And you can just do the one-time dump there. We also have a Patreon page, and you can support us every month. And when you go to patreon.com/voicesrivercity, become a patron as little as $5 a month, as much as however many dollars you want to do. I don't know how rich you are, dear socialist, communist, whatever you are, but like, you can just support us from month to month, and that just keeps us doing what we're doing. I think obviously we appear to be making a difference here, and that's really exciting. So you can do that there. You will get, we have usually about 4 free episodes a month. That's every Tuesday morning. We also have extra episodes every Friday morning. If you're really loving the work we're doing, just become a patron. And I honestly love the $5 patrons, because that's just real folks that just really care, who maybe can't, put in any more than that, but they really want to do their little part. And I think that's how movements get built. So thank you for all of you who are doing that, especially this month. It's only been 12 days, but I believe we've had 15 new patrons already. Possibly more. It's been so humbling. You can find us on social at Voices River City on Twitter and Instagram. Follow the Instagram. It's very funny. Voices River City on Facebook. We have a store, voicesrivercity.com/shop. And then we are all on Twitter. I am at Kempo, at YOUKNOWKEMPA.
You can find me at Guillotine for You. That's
you can.
Guillotine. The number 4. YOU.
And I'm at Shan N.D. Stevens.
And I am at Flojaune, FLOJAUNE.
Councilmember, you've got a couple of Twitter accounts now, I've been noticing. What's going on here?
Yeah, thanks, my new communications person. What's my new handle, Skyler? I can't remember it.
Well, for official D4 news and updates, look for at CMK Valenzuela.
And there you have it.
My own is Katie for Council, which will become a little bit more editorial Katie content as Skyler takes over the officialness.
And yeah, that's it. Again, thank you so much, patrons. Shannon's got a big plan for our patrons only meetup. So those of you who aren't patrons, sign up now. Become a patron today, because we're going to have an in-person meetup in the next few weeks, and it's going to be real fun.
It'll be a good time.
Can add, Shannon?
No, it's going to be real fun.
Okay.
Save your dollars.
What date is that going to be?
The 24th.
24th of Julio. And that's about it. Thank you, everyone. And thank you, Skyler and Councilmember Valenzuela, for coming on and talking us through all of this nonsense.
Yeah.
Thanks for having us. You know, I unsuccessfully tried a SACB response that did not get published, even though they named me a couple times. So I appreciate the chance to say our side of the story. And yeah, I look forward to many more to come.
It's important. And like, I'm very disappointed in local media. This is a First Amendment issue. And the fact that local media didn't hop on this, it's kind of sad to me. Anyway,
Well,
Skyler.
We'll revisit it when one of you enters local government next, because I'm sure that'll be a big hoopla. Shannon, sheriff?
Yes.
Maybe?
Mm-hmm.
What happened to that bill to allow people who don't have a law enforcement background to run for sheriff? Because that could be fun, Shannon.
I love Sheriff Shannon. This is a great concept.
I don't know. Well, okay. I'll do
Yeah.
it.
Thank you.
Yeah, why not?
And then I think, the mayor is obvious, right? Like, Dave's going to run for mayor and win.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm gonna turn the jails into like cat cafes.
Oh.
Yes. I like that. Flo can be the warden of the cat cafe jail.
Oh.
Recall Shannon.
I'm leading the recall effort. I don't appreciate all this cat nonsense.
All right. Well, it's been lovely. Everybody who's listening, thank you for listening. We want you to know that we love you, and we want you to stay safe.
Stay sane.
Stay healthy.
And stay right here next to me, you lovely little listener.